2 years ago, Sri Lanka was in the midst of one of its darkest crises. Protests erupted as the nation faced severe shortages of food, fuel, and electricity. Many were forced onto the streets, and tragically, some lost their lives. The world watched as Sri Lanka's reputation crumbled. Amid this chaos, with every opposition leader unwilling to take on the presidency, only one man stood up: President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Taking office during the most difficult period, he was determined to guide the country through the crisis. Thanks to his leadership, stability was restored, essential supplies returned, and the rising dollar rate was halted before further economic collapse. All thanks to this man, Sri Lanka's recovery began. Today, Sri Lanka stands proud once again. With the economy stabilizing and global respect regained, President Wickremesinghe's leadership serves as a shining example of resilience and decisive action. Once again, the pearl of the Indian Ocean begins to breathe peacefully, inspiring leaders worldwide.
Welcome to Exclusive Pulse brought to you by JadeTimes. The election season is running and we have less than 2 weeks to appointing 9th executive president in Sri Lanka. So as 2024 election approaches, we are supposed to discuss how this election will impact to our entrepreneurs and economy. So we are honored to have Mr. Neomal Perera. He's an entrepreneur and the expert. So we are supposed to discuss with him in these matters. So thank you for joining our program.
Thank you for having me here.
Okay, sir. My first question is, how do you think the outcome of the 2024 presidential election will impact to our entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka?
Thiloththama, actually this presidential election is one of the most decisive elections after the independence. Since of independence, we have never ever faced a crucial and a critical situation in our mother country up to this extent. So the question you asked me, how would this affect the entrepreneurs? Yes, the entrepreneurs are the leading human resource which moves the country forward, offering employment and offering economical height to Sri Lanka. So this is important.
So what changes do you foresee in the business environment under the next president?
I have to be honest in what I speak with you. I don't foresee any advantages or a concrete plan from any other political candidates as presidential candidates, unless the present president, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe, continues. Because don't forget, let me take your memory backwards. Not much, maybe maximum 2.5 years ago, this present president took over this country while it was falling into a deep depth, into a deep well. So when the previous president, His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa, decided to leave the country without involving his executive powers through the military to curtail the uprising, he requested a suitable candidate to take over the premiership before he departed. I respect the previous leader, His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa, for not initiating any military action against the uprising. Thus saying that, at that time when he offered the opportunity to either of the 225 members in the parliament, nobody came forward. So had he left even without initiating his executive powers, hadn't there been anybody to take over the responsibility as a prime minister, today Sri Lanka, at that time Sri Lanka would have been in a further deteriorated state than Bangladesh today. So as an entrepreneur, with the proven track record of this present president, I only foresee his plan motivating the entrepreneurs and guiding Sri Lanka to the next level where Mother Lanka should reach.
Okay, how important is political stability for entrepreneurial success in Sri Lanka?
Political stability is just a word and a norm that we all speak about. Politics is a word, democracy is a word, freedom is a word. It all depends who the executor or who the moderator who is executing these things. So your question, how it could affect the entrepreneurs? Yes, It's not the politics which affects. It's not the democracy which affects the entrepreneurs. What affects the country is the leadership and how honest the leader is, and how charismatically perfect this leader is to manage the economy as a sovereign nation. So this is one of the most crucial elections, and we have to be very safe and very thinkful in selecting and appointing the next 5 years of executiveship.
Do you think the policies of the leading candidates will support or hinder entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka?
Definitely. Policies and promises is the same. The present, in any presidential election, policies are promises which are supposed to be delivered by that individual if he or she gets elected. But we are sick and tired of this so-called promised policies. So this time we have a golden opportunity in Sri Lanka. There is a proven administrator called Ranil Wickremesinghe as a candidate, requesting our mandate for him to govern the country. So as an entrepreneur, I only strongly believe he is the only president who has proven up to date by taking Sri Lanka from a fallen well, surfacing it up. But he has to take it to the next level as well. But to add more value to your question, all the other political candidates, the leading 1, 2 and 3, the one guy is from Malimav. Now Malimav is well known. These are JVP guys. They are just coming out with a new name to hide their psychotic history. The other man is Sajith Premadasa, who is the opposition leader. So getting back to the history, Sajith Premadasa as the opposition leader has proven beyond doubts that he doesn't have the vision, neither the vision nor the leadership to take over a country. In a democratic frame, when the president decides to call for an interim government or a support from the opposition, it is the opposition leader's responsibility and the opposition leader's opportunity to grab it from both the hands. Mind you, 6.9 million people voted for His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and also a considerable amount of votes were given to Honorable Sajith Premadasa. But when His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa left the country, when Honorable Sajith Premadasa refused to take over the premiership, both have let down their vote base at the same point. So in my eyes and ears, I think most Sri Lankans have not forgotten 2.5 years ago what happened. Both of them have failed the state. The president leaves the country, and before leaving, he respected the constitution. He requested somebody responsible enough who has a constructive plan to take over the premiership. So Honorable Sajith Premadasa was in two minds, twisting his ideology, one in the morning and one by evening, and he never came up. So what does it mean? That means even though he speaks loud out, gives all the promises to people, that he doesn't have the neither the charismatic leadership nor the mechanism within himself to perform as a leader. So getting back to your question back again, apart from the present president, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe, the JVP guy who is coming from Malimava, Anukumara Disanayake, again trying to be the president for the second time, Sajith Premadasa, in my eyes and ears, are just con artists. They are just acting on stage with the likeness or the feeling of becoming a president without neither a proper plan nor the charisma within themselves.
According to your answer, we can see major candidates talking about especially increasing the salary of government employees. Do you think under fiscal responsibilities we can implement that changes or promises?
Very good question you are asking from me. Salary increments are required for every employee. That's why they work for somebody. You can work either in the government sector or in the private sector. you render your services honestly, you execute the plans given to you by your higher ups, and you manage your family and yourself from that. So the normal pattern is every year you expect a salary increment. That is an important thing where either the government or the private sector should initiate. That's well and truly correct. But how to do it? You have to do it with profit making. The government cannot be borrowing money from the World Bank or with the endorsement of the IMF and increasing salaries of the public sector. Then also it has a direct effect on the private sector. Private sector is also a bit stagnated in the country. They cannot afford to manage that momentum. I need to take your memory backwards because without going back to history, you cannot forecast for the future. Promises are just words. Just words. You can promise anything, I can promise anything, but only I know whether I have the mechanism to do it or whether it could be done. Now, I had to take your memory backwards, a bit backwards. In the late 80s, I don't know whether you were born or not, in the late 80s I was a schoolboy. I'll be touching 50 years this December. I was born in 1974. In the late 80s, during 1986 to 89, the Triforces of Sri Lanka gallantry almost capturing this terrorist called Velupille Prabhakaran. Velupille Prabhakaran was a paid perpetrator. He was neither a freedom fighter nor a representative of the Tamil population. He was a perpetrator trying to represent the Tamil people by misleading them. So when the Triforces were almost catching him in the year 1987, 1988, between that time, now the present Malimawa, the JVP presidential candidate's boss, late Rohana Vijayveera, set fire to the south. Now why did he set fire to the south? When the terrorist called Velupille Prabhakaran was to be captured and the Tamils and the Sinhalese and the Muslims to be liberalized. Why is that? Because I strongly believe that the LTT and the JVP was paid by the same entity. So Rohana Vijayveera had the responsibility of setting fire in the south so that the military concentration could be brought to the south and the so-called terrorist Velupille Prabhakaran's life could be spared. So the military couldn't be successful at that time due to numerous issues. So in the same 1 or 2 years to come, Rohana Vijayveera was assassinated. So after Rohana Vijayveera was assassinated, the handlers of the so-called JVP immediately told them to come into a democratic frame. So they came into a democratic frame and they came into parliament. So from 1994, under the presidency of Mrs. Kumarnatunga, then under the presidency of President Mahinda Rajapaksa, under the president of Maitripala Sirisena, the JVP guys were senior cabinet ministers. So what did they do? They always, whilst in the government, created confusion whenever foreign direct investment was coming into the country. So the governments had to borrow, keep on borrowing, and pay the utilities of the state. So answering your question, it is the JVP who misled all the foreign direct investment coming into Sri Lanka and made sure this time not as terrorist perpetrators, but that this time as parliamentarians, that Sri Lanka would not reach, Mother Lanka would not reach her goals through the democratic framework and through whoever the president and the cabinet serve in the country.
Okay, as an entrepreneur, don't you think we have to implement a very immediately permanent production plan to Sri Lanka?
Definitely yes. Sri Lanka is an agri-based country. It is the authors many years ago said that anything could be grown in Sri Lanka. So we have a very fertile land. Our strength is agriculture. Thus saying that we have enough technicality genetically, irrespective of our surnames. Engineering, agriculture is in our genetics. Uh, Few examples like Siguria, irrespective of the surname, still it's in our genetics. We have to go for production. There's no doubts about it. So the main contributor in production and exports is the apparel industry today. So they are bringing a lot of revenue back to the country, but it doesn't mean that we have to only depend on that. A lot of production has to be introduced. But even for that, the investor who comes bringing in foreign direct investment comes here because he has a good opportunity of making more pluses than his dollars in his own country. So as an investor, what does this foreign investor think? First, he needs the country to be a safe country, and also he needs the infrastructure to be together in the country: electricity, water, transportation, etc. So then only he will put his money here. Then as the second step, when he feels he is secured, he will fall in love with the nature of the country. Then he will expand his investment. So back again, investment has to come, production has to be increased, but for that, a strong leader with charisma and knowledge should lead our country.
Okay. My next question is, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs preparing for potential changes after the election?
Potential changes, if somebody takes over the country, I don't think it will happen. If it goes to the wrong hands, there are no contingencies that the entrepreneurs can have. If the country goes back to darkness, if the country falls short of fuel, if the country falls down to destructive ideology people who are now in sheep's clothing as presidential candidates asking the mandate to be the president, if that happens, I don't think I am genius enough how to give advice to the entrepreneurs, including me. I don't know what to do at that time. But we all have to make sure that the present system goes for another at least 5 years. So other advice to the entrepreneurs is to make sure that their decisions are correct and their decisions are calculatedly correct, and they don't get carried away with the soft loans that they have received, and to be very serious in looking after their main resource. The main resource is their human resource, to look after the people who are performing, and to have more links in bringing in foreign direct investment, so that the rupee would appreciate further and we would gain more benefits out of it.
On President Ranil Wickremesinghe's response to the economic crisis, I'm asking those questions from you. How would you assess Ranil Wickremesinghe, present president, response to Sri Lanka's economic crisis from an entrepreneur's perspective? What is your observation?
My main practice in life, where I was taught by my teachers from school, especially our sports teachers, coaches, action speaks louder than the words. So this is the only president presently serving, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe, who took over the country while it was inside a well. So if you and I fall into a well, if we panic, also we will die inside. But if we become lethargic and give it up, still will we die. So the present president, without being panicked, neither becoming panic nor becoming too aggressive, manage it very professionally. So as I said, action speaks louder than the words. In action, this is the only president after independence has shown from his own vision and his own physical initiative how a president should behave and perform. So there's nothing much for us to talk about or evaluate about his talent and his ideology. So he has proven beyond doubts. We should be humble enough to support him to govern this country, to lead us in the next 5 years.
What were the key economic policies implemented by President Ranil Wickremesinghe that motivated your community, entrepreneurs?
Well, first when he took over, he did something very good. He did not allow the Parate execution to move forward, because the Sri Lankan financial institutions since of 1994 has been manipulated by few wrongful businessmen who are in the business of gambling, who are in the business of alcohol and wrong trade, has become private banks and private financial institution owners. So these guys, from the year 1994 to up to date, they have manipulated the private banking and borrowing systems. So these guys are very happy when the country falls down, because it's a cakewalk for them. They can confiscate the businesses and take over the businesses of these young entrepreneurs. They can scavenge the jewelry of innocent people in this country. So the first step the present president, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe, did was giving a grace, stopping Parat execution. Also, he did not stop there, because that's only a temporary help that would help the upper and middle level entrepreneurs to sustain. He immediately hit the desk of the IMF. He handled it very professionally. He said, yes, we have difficulties. It doesn't mean that we can stop paying the salaries of the government sector people. We have to pay them. His countrymen has to survive. Based on human ethics, based on the financial ethics accepted by the IMF, he maneuvered it very professionally. Whilst he was managing it, he was successful in inviting foreign direct investment also into the country. It's not only the help and the guidance of the IMF, he managed the other part as well. You know, when you and I are fallen into a financial difficulty, the Sri Lankan monetary system has to endorse us as ethical people. Then only we can open ourselves for investing partners or any financial help. Likewise, IMF endorsement is the key to success of Sri Lanka. So under the leadership of the present president, his cabinet performed very well. They managed the IMF very professionally. You need to recall backwards. The present candidate from the JVP, so-called Malimawa, said, what is IMF? That's not necessary. The present leader of the opposition and one of the presidential candidates, Sajith Premadasa, said, IMF, I know how to deal with IMF, but without any constructive plan. Why did they do that? To further dismantle the country, the economy. But answering your question, the best approach and the most professional approach was extended by the present government under President His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe. That motivated most of the entrepreneurs, stayed back in the country and sustained their businesses with hope to go to the next level.
In your view, President Ranil Wickremesinghe's approach to handling the crisis helped or hurt the small business community? What is your view?
Any country doesn't, I have to give you a broad answer into this. In any country, as a developing country, the gauge of measurement is not on how many millionaires you have. The gauge of measurement is what is the total population of upcoming entrepreneurs, upcoming medium scale, small and medium scale businesses. So this has to be addressed in any country. So the present president action of managing the borrowing interest rates manage and motivated the entrepreneurs and the small and the medium scale businessmen to sustain in this country. So it's more often his leadership. Negotiations back again with the IMF. Hadn't IMF extended their hand, we wouldn't have sustained. We would have to go and sell our businesses to the top few fellows in the country. They would have been happy. So I think the present government managed it under the present president's leadership very well, and that as a chain effect helped the small and the medium scale businessmen, entrepreneurs as a total to sustain up to this level.
How do you think entrepreneurs have to adapt, especially the economic changes brought by his policies?
Economic changes that he has brought in actually has made us more thinkful, because now we know we have the entrepreneurs, the genuine entrepreneurs who are not mollycoddled by the political bureaucracy, knows now we have a honest and a serious administrator. that the market is open for us to perform, because it's a democratic market now. It's not been manipulated. So all his decisions in terms of trade, export and production helped us to sustain here with more enthusiasm.
So, what further steps do you believe are needed to support entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka now? Because after the crisis, still we are rebuilding. So, what is your point of view?
As I said few minutes ago, now the private banking system and especially these leasing companies have gone into few mafia fellows of this country. They are in full suit, red ties and whatever the tie they desire to wear. But behind them is the mafia ideology. So these are scavengers trying to scavenge the genuine entrepreneur. So we believe that His Excellency the present President Ranil Wickremesinghe has always made sure to look after the genuine hard-working entrepreneurs, the medium and the small-scale businessmen. So as businessmen and entrepreneurs, what we request from him in the years to come is to bring down the borrowing rate, because mind you, the central bank releases money to the private banks and the so-called financial private institutes at a very lesser price. So the interest rate, the borrowing rate for businessmen has to come to a single digit, at least minimum 7 to 8% annually. So if he does that, I think we have a platform to surface up and execute our business plans, expanding ourselves.
In your opinion, which presidential candidate has the best combination regarding the education qualifications and the experience to lead the Sri Lanka out of this economic crisis? What is your observation?
Education is a must. Education is which fulfills you as a human being. I think all these candidates have gone to school, and one has graduated. Most of them have graduated as well. So again, there's no point you having everything inside, your education, your charisma, everything. If you have the fear psychosis of executing it. Also, there's no point you having everything inside if your frame of mind is groomed and devastated with a jealous and a devastating ideology. So, answering your question, back again, it boils down to the present leader, the present president. His education, his upbringing, his religious teaching, and also his honesty and his charismatic power of initiating and delivering as a leader has proven. So undoubtedly, present president and present candidate, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe is on top of all mechanisms put together compared to all the other three.
Do you believe the President of Sri Lanka should effectively represent to the country of the global stage?
Definitely yes. We elect a president as the voice and as the personality, as the figure of the total population. Irrespective who votes or not, the majority's vote picks him up as the sole representative of the total population. Yes, his personality, his charismatic leadership, his communication skills in foreign language, and his in-depth knowledge of economic and current affairs is very crucial when he stands in global forums and represents Sri Lanka. Definitely, yes, it has an impact.
Okay, I need very honest answer for this question. What is your evaluation and the message to public regarding the President of Sri Lanka, especially the candidates?
We'll start from the Malimav, the so-called Malimav, the JVP. Now, this candidate Anukumara Disanayaka is portraying himself in front of youth as if he's a newcomer and he's an inventor, lived overseas. He has come here to liberalize Sri Lanka. That's the perception he's maintaining. But who is this guy? He had been an active JVP member while being a university student in the late 80s. Then they are the people who clash with the government, where the military has to intervene. Then what did he do? He gave up his active contribution to the JVP while they were rioting around the country, and hid himself in his auntie's house, and I think started having a family with his aunt. He was not to be seen after that. While 60,000 youth had to sacrifice their lives because of the misleading of the late Rohana Vijayveera and his clan, the so-called the leader now of the JVP and the Malimawa, Andhrakumara Disanayaka, like a coward, went and hid himself in 1986-87. Then he came out to the limelight after so many years. Then he managed to use his cunningness and chase away the other leaders from the JVP and to take over the JVP leadership. And he came into the democratic frame and he entered parliament. So what did he do while in parliament? You come to the parliament as the most glorified representative of the population. We call them honorable. We don't call them Mr. So what is the honorability Anurakumara executed while in the parliament? He backed Mrs. Kumarnatunga's government. He backed President Mahinda Rajapaksa's government. He backed President Maithripala Sirisena's government. What did he do? During morning hours, he is in parliament, promising and condemning good matters. While in his parliament, in the evening, he gets his union leaders to organize strikes continuously whenever foreign direct investment was coming into the country. So starting from Mrs. Kumarnatunga as the president up to President Maithripala Sirisena, nothing couldn't have achieved as per to the national plan. Nothing, only borrowing. So those are the repercussions that we paid 2.5 years ago. So this is now presidential candidate Mr. Andhrakumara he is now trying to show a fresh face to this youth and to the nation. He's showing a fresh face as if he's an alienated Sri Lankan who wants to take over the responsibilities. He is also one of the main contributors for this country to be in this devastating situation. So that is he. Now what is the presidential Santike Honorable Sajith Premadas? What is Sajith Premadas? Before coming into politics, has he ever been employed somewhere? Has he ever done a job? He says he is very educated. He claims he can speak lot of languages. He claims that he can even tame the wild elephant while he's on camping. But what, as a youth, as a teenager, as in his early 20s after university, he says he has gone to university. What has he done? At least has he done a part-time job and earned 1,000 rupees? No, not at all. God only knows how he sustains with this lavish lifestyle. And as a politician, what did he do? As I said 20-30 minutes before, whilst our conversation was going on, he became the opposition leader. He is still the opposition leader of the country. 2.5 years ago, when His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa invited, he hid himself without taking over the responsibility. So is this the man who is saying that he could put Sri Lanka together and could lead Sri Lanka for prosperity? People can give promises towards prosperity, but if they were hiding in terms of adversity, they are weak, worthless human resources in politics. So this is number 2. Then we come to the other presidential candidate, parliamentarian Neomal Rajapaksa. Same as Honorable Sajith Premadasa. Both are sons of 2 presidents. Neomal Rajapaksa says he is going to start from where his father stops. But what ethicalness does Neomal Rajapaksa has to say that? He also had been a cabinet minister in the previous government. I think he held more than 5 cabinet portfolios. What did he do? What has he delivered? And also, this presidential candidate Neomal Rajapaksa, he claims that he's a lawyer by profession, but at least, forget about he practicing in court and earning some money. At least has he done a part-time job, earned 5,000 rupees, and at least bought something for his parents? Absolutely no. So, Anurakumara Disanayaka is paid to lie and mislead this country as a JVP youth and now a presidential candidate, whilst being a parliamentarian and being in the as cabinet minister. So who is Sajith Premadasa and Neomal Rajapaksa? 2 mollycoddled sons of 2 executive presidents. Their only eligibility was their fathers, their paters being presidents. They talk big on stage. They run, they have this glamour. Why? They have no responsibility. They have a very relaxed frame of mind and a lavish life. They can sleep comfortably because in the morning they don't have the responsibility of paying their utility bills and their cost of living. So you mean to say these 2 mollycoddled children of 2 executive former presidents could lead you and me and this lovely beautiful nation? They all con artists. Unfortunately, our people have extended our love to leaders where they spoil their own children. Now their children trying to replace their fathers, which will never happen, which will never take place because their children were mollycoddled by their fathers. They were not groomed, they were not properly taught how to respect humanity, how to be generous when living from public funds. They are mollycoddled children. So number 1, the first candidate, not the number 1, the first candidate, the so-called JEP, now the so-called Malimawa, hiding behind the Malimawa, is a paid person to mislead Sri Lanka from his youthhood and came into democracy to save his life after his boss Rohana Vijayveera was assassinated. Now in the morning misleading the nation. During the Aragalaya, the so-called Anurakumara Disanayaka plotted to burn the parliament with his other henchmen. We saw on television, I'm sure you also would have seen this. Driving on the ceremonial drive, coming out of the parliament, Anurakumara Disanayaka accommodates his henchmen who are trying to burn public property and giving them transport through the police barriers. So is this the guy that trying to show that he is the answer, he is the change that is required by Mother Lanka to be led in the coming 5 years? Who are these guys? And the other 2, mollycoddled 2 sons of 2 executive presidents who ruled the country the way they wanted. Both of them ruled the country the way they wanted. Late Ranasinghe Premadasa is the only executive president who gave arms and ammunition to a terrorist group who were devastating the country. LTT. The serving president gave arms and ammunition to the LTT. And according to the Buddhists, karma worked on him. He couldn't sustain in his life. The other president, His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa, we all love him, still we respect him. He gave the gallantry leadership for the Triforces to eliminate terrorism. But what happened after that? He couldn't manage himself because of his family interferences. And his heap load of relations in the cabinet. I feel very generously feel sorry for former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to the insulting situation that he has fallen. Now his son Neomal Rajapaksa, being a mollycoddled child of a executive president, and thank you to the presidential budget that he enjoyed because of his father, is trying to be the leader of Sri Lanka. I don't think that Sri Lankans are this stupid. So, I have spoken about three. Now the other gentleman is the serving president, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe. What has he done? He has done the most important thing to Mother Lanka. People rejected him, but mind you, there is a superpower in this world. That superpower decided that Sri Lanka should undergo the leadership of Ranil Wickremesinghe for the Sri Lankans to understand what sort of a charismatic leader he is. That is what Aragalaya did. His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed according to the constitution of the country, not by the individual vote. So that happened through a mechanism, and he has proven what he could deliver to the country. So now what should we do? Again get caught to this one-time terrorist leader's subordinate Anura Kumara, or do we have to get caught to either of the former president's two sons who has not done anything on their own, sustained within the taxpayers' money? Also, getting back to presidential candidate Anadolu Dissanayake, what has he done? Has he ever done a job? With his so-called degree, the University of Kelaniya, his degree, what has he done? Has he ever done a job? Has he ever taught anywhere? Has he ever worked overseas, brought in foreign direct investment? Absolutely nothing. These two sons were mollycoddled by the public funds. Anadolu Dissanayake was mollycoddled by the investment of certain agencies who made sure that Sri Lanka will not achieve her progress at given times. So it's any common man could understand this. This is our last chance, Thiloththama. This is our last chance. Since our independence, this is a very decisive presidential election. This election will decide whether Sri Lanka is going to be a prosperous sovereign state, or Sri Lanka would be worse than Bangladesh and our immediate island Maldives. Let's see what is happening globally. Pakistan is down. Bangladesh is down. Bangladesh was shattered and brought down without any fuel deficits. Nothing. Over a small regulation issue, Bangladesh in a very fair state now. Maldives down. So only we are standing tall, being a tiny nation. So don't you feel that some global powers who wants to put down Sri Lanka is also being activated through people like the JVP, now Malimawa, and other certain entities? They will always invest their resources to make sure Sri Lanka is defunct from progress. So any normal man could understand who is the proper executive who could deliver from all these four main candidates. None other than the proven president, His Excellency Ranil Wickremesinghe.
So my last question, according to your previous answer, what is your message to Sri Lankan community before the election?
It's very simple. Very simple. Don't get carried away with elusive promises. Respect the person irrespective of the political colors, the family history of politics, family history of political biasness. Respect the person who took out ourselves from a great disaster. It was not far away. Less than 3 years ago, we were all standing in queues for the fuel, for the medicine, and also for other important commodities. So therefore, my only humble request, forget about politics, Forget about your political affiliations. Humbly think of your family. Then after the family, think of Sri Lanka to be a developed and a sovereign nation. Vote for His Excellency Ranil Wickramasinghe. Otherwise, there will be no country for you and I to do politics or to vote in the future. Trust my word. I'm not misleading a nation for selfish gains. Trust. We all have to be humble and vote for His Excellency Ranil Wickramasinghe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neomal Perera, for sharing your insights regarding especially to the 2024 election and how impact our election for the entrepreneurs and the, our Sri Lankan economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting me as well. Thank you once again.
Okay. We hope our discussion is very meaningful our viewers, and we invite to stay tuned. Exclusive Pulse brought to you by JadeTimes. So thank you very much.